Good evening, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. Tonight we have a special guest, Mr. Adrian Havelock. Mr. Havelock is a specialist when it comes to sales and entrepreneurship. Let me tell you guys a little bit about him. He's the Caribbean's #1 Master Sales Trainer, author of 2 books, Certified BMW Group Trainer with the BMW Group. He's a speaker and he's an entrepreneur. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Adrian Havelock. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you for having me on the show, and hello to everyone.
Well, I appreciate you for being here. Is there anything else you'd like to add to your bio?
I think you covered it quite well. It was short, it was sweet, but it had everything in it. So yeah.
So I guess that we'll just dive right on into this. Can you tell us, when it comes to sales, why did you decide to go into the career field of sales?
Um, it's an interesting thing. When I finished high school, I was looking for a job because to me, I wanted to start working. I wanted to start making money. And it so happened that one of the companies I applied to get a job was at the local dealership of BMW in my country in Trinidad. And fortunately, it was a brand that I always admired. And when they called me for the interview, I was so excited. I went to that interview with a lot of energy and excitement, and I met with the managing director, the branch manager, the HR manager as well. And they all interviewed me at 19 years old. And it seemed as though I succeeded in that interview because they gave me a chance. Although the requirements were that you needed to be at least 25 years old for the job. I was 19, and I guess they gave me an olive branch, and they say, "Here, Adrian, we're going to try you out and see how it works. We love how you conducted yourself in the interview. There you go." I took up the job, and within the first 2 years, I was in the top 3 in sales in the brand. So that is actually how I got into sales. It was just a chance that was taken on me with a brand that I loved.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so are they the only company that you've ever worked with when it comes to sales?
No, actually, they're not. But it was the foundation for my career. So I lasted there for about 6 years. Was in the top 3 in performing in sales at the company, and then eventually one of my own clients, who bought quite a number of cars from me at the time, wanted to hire me as operations manager to train his staff and work with his team. And I went there and I worked with him just for over a year. And that's when I decided, you know what, I want to step out and do my own thing. Um, I'm really good at sales, but I want to continue working with clients at the same level I meet with when I was at BMW. And I said the one thing that they would require would be some kind of, work or product that would suit their businesses. And I'm like, I could do training because I'm already unofficially doing it. I even unofficially did some of it when I was at the BMW in sales. I could probably provide that as a service to these guys. And I called them up, a couple of them who I've already had a good relationship with. They were a good client of mine. They had businesses. I said, hey, you want me to train your staff to sell the same way I convinced you to buy your BMW? It was an easy yes. It was an easy sale. And they said, yes, come do it. I want my staff to work with customers the same way you worked with me because they enjoyed the experience. And I think they enjoyed it mainly because I enjoyed the experience of, facilitating and helping them with their products and, the sale overall.
Oh, wow. So so I'm assuming then this is how you first got started in the sales.
Yeah.
But and so just with that drawing you to the field as to you just liking BMW, could you share a pivotal moment in your sales career that significantly influenced your approach or perspective?
A particular moment was when I had a client of mine. He was driving down the freeway, and this was about 10 p.m. at night. And he called me with a concern. He said, Adrian, I'm hearing a really unfamiliar sound coming from my vehicle. And while he was talking, I could have hear it through the phone. It was just sounding like this while he was driving down the freeway. And he said, Adrian, I'm taking my time. I'm not driving too hard, but my wife is in the car with me. and I'm not far from home. How can you help? I told him, I said, you know what? I'm not far from your home either. I'm about 10 minutes away. He's good. He said, I'm also about 10 minutes away from the other direction. So we said, we'll meet at home. When I went to his home, I got there like 2 minutes before he did. When he pulled up, he his tire was shredded, but it was run flat tires, which means the tire didn't go flat. It just had no air and it was shredded. And the piece that was shredded was hitting against the vehicle, the fender, the wheel well. And when he got there, I was like, I'm so happy that you made it home safe. Because of the fact that you had this particular feature in the vehicle, because you had that run flat tire, you were able to make it home safe. You did not have to stop at the side of the freeway at 10 p.m. in the night with your wife in the vehicle and call me for help or call an emergency service crew for help. You were able to make it home in time. You were safe. And that particular moment, when I could have seen it in his eyes, was a sign of relief. Made me believe that, okay, helping people, helping the customers was a significant factor into, I guess, succeeding, because he felt relief. He felt good. He recommended other people to me to do business. He said, do business with Adrian. It wasn't about do business with the company. It was do business with Adrian. And that in itself solidified. That was the moment, I think, solidified that, helping people is the way to go when it comes to succeeding. Not just in sales. I think it's in everything. Entrepreneurship, everything.
So when it comes down to the technique that
Yeah.
you use when it comes to sales, tell me, how can you make that expansive across many different spectrums? Let's say if you wanted to just make this from I don't know, could you consolidate and make it the same with admin and business as you do with sales when it comes to the techniques that you use?
I think so. The key thing about sales is the ability to listen, right? But
Mhm,
the only way that you could listen is if you ask questions. And
mhm.
if you ask questions, there's a way in which you need to ask the questions that would give you vital information. You're not just going to ask random questions that doesn't have a flow. It's going to have a purpose behind these questions, but it will be so conversational and so relaxed with the customer. If you ask the right questions in the right way, you'll get the right answers. Those pieces of information are the important pieces that would help you understand how it is your product or service that you offer
Mhm.
could work with them, could help them improve, help them get out of a bad situation, or just help them make a good situation even better. But you can't go in there and just try to sell your product, try to sell this item, just by going in and pushing and giving them a set of information and saying, these are the benefits of the product. You need to work with this. This is going to help you. That type of lecturing is not going to influence people who want to do business with you. You have to take it from a consultative approach. You have to look at it from the ability to ask questions, listen, and then help, provide assistance, try to find a solution together with the customer. Basically, work with that customer. And I think that is the important thing to make that happen.
Mhm. Now, I can tell you that, based on what you just said, I can tell you that that's kind of like an experience that I had when I purchased my last car.
Right.
Well, actually, well, with my last two, shall I say, because, it was like, as you say, people running, they trying to push this sale on you, I'm not really that kind of person. I don't like that.
Yeah.
So now what I've decided to do is just whenever I go to a dealership now, I try not to have that interaction. What I
Right.
do is I go and I just say, hey, write this up for me. I take it to my credit union, get a check, come back, bring the check, and I get the car.
Right.
I don't need all that other stuff.
Yeah. No, that is good. That is good. It shows that you're one of the customers who've already made a decision, but
Right.
you've made that decision because you went and you did your research. You've
Mhm.
researched, you've narrowed down your options, and then you finally come to the conclusion, this is the one I want. And you go in there and you buy. Nobody
Right.
sold it to you. You just
Right.
went in and you buy.
Right.
And I think a major factor is that you did not want to have to experience that sales pitch.
Right.
You just wanted to get the product and be satisfied with the experience, and
Mhm.
you did that yourself. But there are many people out there who don't do that. They want help. They want help making a decision because they can't make a decision on their own. And that's when the salesman or the entrepreneur or the business person, whoever is selling the product or service, that's where their role comes in now. And you need to have that conversation with the individual to help guide them with making that decision, because they can't do it themselves. They don't know how. They may have an idea of a direction they want to go, or product or a car, let's say, that they want to purchase, but they might not be sure of what is the exact model or the features that they want, or the package that they want to get, or the budget that they want to fall into, right? And that's where people like us, the salespeople, the entrepreneurs, the business owners, the small business owners, right? We need to be able to help them make that decision, not push them to buy, because you may push somebody so much that you push them away from your business.
Exactly. You're exactly right. What strategies do you find to be most effective in building and maintaining client relationships in a B2B context?
In this modern day and age, the year is 2024 right now. Maintaining that relationship isn't much about picking up the phone and calling clients anymore, because now the way businesses are evolving, you don't have a couple hundred clients. Sometimes you have a couple thousand clients. So it's very difficult to pick up the phone as a salesperson and call every single one of them. Hey, I'm just checking in, see how you're doing. No, it's very time consuming, and then that's going to take away from you getting sales. So the best way to maintain that relationship is to make sure that your presence is always felt. And how do you make your presence always felt? A lot of times they spend it on their devices. They're consuming content on social media. They're consuming content on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, right? So because they're consuming content, that's where their attention is. That's where they are. You need to go where they are, and you need to basically show up. When you show up and they see you, you may be creating content, posting something, but they're seeing you, they're hearing your voice. They may be watching, if not the entire piece of the video content that you create, just a piece of it. The mere fact that that happens, the rapport stays, the relationship is maintained, and you stay at the top of mind. So I create content. I do a lot of that on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is one of the platforms I tend to do a lot of business with. I think it's very important, especially from a B2B perspective, right?
Sir.
Creating that content and people seeing my videos. I'm not calling it, mind you, they could be a client who purchased from me already, but I'm not calling them to check up and see how things going. I'm just there creating content, posting, and when they see it, I'm always at the top of their mind. They remember me. They remember me. And you know what? One day they're gonna message me and say, "Hey, Adrian, we want to do some more training." Or, "Adrian, I have a business colleague who wants some training, and I just gave them your name." But that happens because I'm creating content, putting it out there, and it is a form of keeping and maintaining a relationship with those clients. It's the same way as your email blast goes out to your database. All of that is maintaining the relationship with the clients. But I recommend doing a lot of videos. So even if you do an email blast, send a link for a video. And that video, when they see you, they hear your voice, it's more personalized than just reading a text. And I think that that is the way we need to do it nowadays.
Oh wow! So, has there always been like a particular concept when it comes to the B2B area of sales that is now different than what it used to be, or has it always been the same?
It's changed. It's changed. I mean, I could tell you from the days of doing sales prior to social media, you're pounding the pavement, you're canvassing, you're doing cold calling, you're going door to door, or you're sending mail outs and letters and flyers through the post, right? um Now, because of the social media platforms that we have, because of the internet, the world wide web, the way it's evolved, you can have a greater reach. And with that greater reach, you maintain the relationships, you gain new customers, new perspective. But the important thing is that instead of you doing it the traditional way and just trying to sell your services, You're actually creating content that is valuable. So what is different now is that you give the value upfront. You show the value. So for example, I may do a video on a particular sales tip. I could talk about when you're having a meeting, right? You should ask questions in a certain way. And I'll give you a tip, and then I'll tell you at the end of the video, which could just be a minute long, go and try that with your client, right? And a salesperson may see that and think this is useful information. I could probably use this from today, right? They didn't pay for it. It was free, but it was valuable. It's in the same way a business owner or a manager may see that information and say, you know what, I need to call Adrian and train my staff. The mere fact that you're giving that value up front, you're giving it for free, it's educational, it's informative, and it also gives you the position of being a credible, respectable person in the profession, positioning yourself as the expert in that field. So yeah, give value. That's how it's changed, by providing the value upfront and utilizing the online tools that we have at our disposal.
As somebody deeply involved in B2B sales, how do you adapt your sales techniques to different industries or markets?
Well, you got to do the research. You need to understand, okay, I'm going into a particular industry. How do they do sales in that? And how do they respond to salespeople in that industry? And what is the process to get a client on board in that industry? And when you have to go in there, yes, you can give a generic sales presentation, a sales training, but not all elements of it could be used in that particular industry. So if I'm using the sales training as an example, because that's what I do, B2B, right? I utilize the important parts of my product, my service for them. And I customize that training for them. So if it is that you have a product or service and you need to tap into a different market, a different industry, it's not always one size fits all. It's always you need to customize it in some form or fashion. You're selling clothing. You're not going to sell one size. You're going to sell extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, double XL. You're going to give different sizes of the same shirt so that you can cater to different people. It's the same way you need to have your product adaptable to different markets, different industries.
Wow, that's a lot. That is definitely a lot. And when I just think about it, let me just ask you a follow-up question to that, because let's say when you're saying how it's adaptable and how you have to customize and so forth, like when it comes to customization, what are some of the things that you look at or you determine when you want to customize for a particular industry? What are some of those things?
I look at the customer tick in those industries. What makes them not tick? What would turn them off? All right. I look at that first, the customer's experience. And then I take a look at the process of the client that I'm working with and how they are facilitating that customer. Is it working? Are there gaps that need to be filled? Or are there things that they should probably not be doing that we need to remove? And then I customize it to that level. So if it is that, our audience here, they have the goal to start a business, and it's not what I do, it's different, right? But you need to make sure that your product or service can be either adaptable to different industries or different markets, or you could customize some of it, not in a full way. It could probably just be a few tweaks and changes to adapt to different types of customers. So if you're going to do that, understand what is your customer profile or profiles, right? Customer A may be this type of person and they may look for this type of product. Customer B, customer C, right? And then make sure you have the products or the services to facilitate each of them. And when they come to you or you go to them, you interact with them, you would know exactly what's the best product, the best solution to offer to them. After, of course, you've asked the right questions and you've listened.
So what role does continuous learning play in staying ahead in the sales industry, and how do you personally approach it?
Oh, it's a very important rule, because I approach it by taking a look at different trends and the way in which things are changing in the world today, especially when it comes to the use of artificial intelligence, the use of online tools and social media. I take a look at those things. Now, for me, I don't have to look at everything because not everything may apply to what I do. For someone else, they may have to look at more things and see what's changing and learn to adapt to those changes. Okay. You have, for example, a company that may be selling a particular service for the last 25, 30 years, right? But they're struggling today to sell that same product or service that they were really, really successful 15 years ago.
Mhm.
Why? Why they're struggling today, although they're so well established? It's because you have a lot of people working in the companies or running the companies who have not kept up and adapt, who have not done continuous learning to adapt to the changing world. So I did a training recently with a company, and in the training, I brought new tools for them. And the thing is, it's not so much new tools, it was just tools that they were aware of, but they were not using because their management were giving them tools that they used when they were in sales back in the 80s and 90s. And it worked really well back then, right? And they're telling them, go out there and do these things. You should not be doing it this way, although this way is the online way and the way in which most consumers are buying now. They build rapport, they build trust, and they make majority of their decisions from their own research now. You don't have to go out there and convince them and give them the whole list of features and functions and benefits, right? So things have changed, and continuous learning make sure that you're ahead of the game. You understand how things are changing and how it's impacting consumer buying behavior. And if you understand how it's impacting consumer buying behavior, your selling behavior should be able to adapt to that consumer buying behavior to make sure that you're continuously growing as a business, as an individual, as a company, all right, to ensure longevity.
Mhm. So let me just get this right, kids. Can let me ask you this:
Yeah.
there are such as like having CPEs when it comes to sales, or is it just that the updated training as to the industry itself? In other
Repeat.
words,
Yeah.
let me just say, like, like if you're like in real estate or you're doing insurance and so forth, you have to do CPEs on an annual
Right.
basis.
Correct.
So is it the same in the sales industry, or do you just update the changes of the industry?
Um, it's depending on the industry entirely. Some industries aren't as, how to say, strict with
Mhm.
certain elements of it because they don't require too much legal aspects to it,
Right.
right? Whereas some areas of sales, like the insurance or the real estate, they have a lot of legal aspects to it that, you need to follow these certain rules and stick within these parameters and have these certain qualifications and certifications to make sure that you're on board and you're on par. From many different reasons, right? So for the work that I do with clients and stuff, I look at the human side of the sales element. And by human side, I mean that's my specialty, it's my focus,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have other great trainers and experts in fields who would focus more on those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
incorporate it. My area of specialty is looking at the human side, the psychological side, the communication side, all interlocked into one with a client. So when you and I have the conversation, that sales conversation, what do we say? How do we say it? What's the tone we're using? What's the choice of words or language that I'm going to use to make sure that you have an emotional feeling towards me that's positive, in that you want to do business with me, not because I'm selling you something, but because it's such a comfortable feeling you just want to buy from me, right? That
Right.
is what I focus on. And I believe that if anybody who's watching this live right now or watching the recording of this, if you're getting into business, if you're starting a small business, if you're getting into sales, right, make sure that you understand human behavior. And I don't mean you have to go and do a psychological course. I just mean that you need to be observant.
Mm-hmm.
Observe, listen, look at the non-verbal cues, look at the way somebody react and respond to something, if they're comfortable, if they're uncomfortable, and adapt accordingly. That in itself will make a significant impact in how you do business.
Mm-hmm. So, how do you balance short-term sales goals with long-term relationship building in your sales strategies?
Short-term sales goals with long-term relationship building for me comes back down to consistency in how I build myself as a brand. So salespeople nowadays have to build their own strong personal brands to consider themselves as I try to tell salespeople, stop thinking of yourself as a salesperson in the first place. I start telling people, if you're a salesperson, you're gonna learn the product knowledge. You're gonna learn the industry anyways, right?
Mhm.
Consider yourself an expert in that industry. And when you consider yourself an expert in that industry, you think like one, you act like one, you move like one, you do everything like an expert. And when you are consistent with that mindset,
Mhm.
you can also be consistent with the content that you create. Put
Mhm.
yourself out there and create content. And when you create content, because of course we're in 2024, in the next 6 years that's going to evolve and become even bigger, you're going to have to continuously create content. Salespeople, experts needs to be marketers, needs to be big brands as an individual. I may have a company, I have a couple companies, but you know what's the brand that I promote? Brand
Mhm.
is Adrian Havelock. Who people want to do business with? Adrian Havelock. All right. So when you build that brand and you're consistent with it, for the short-term sales goals you're gonna get, but for the long term, you're gonna build something great because you build a reputation with that.
Mhm.
And it will reach a point where you won't have to be chasing sales. It will reach a point where clients are going to be chasing you. Everybody is going to want to be doing work with you, but it only comes when you are consistent, when you are continuously doing the little things to make sure that you're always there with not just your existing clients, but new clients. So create content, put yourself out there. When people are looking at their phones, right?
Uh,
You want them to see you, even if it's just for a couple of seconds. It triggers something in their brain. And over time, that's going to grow. Your network going to grow. More people are going to recognize you. This is why TikTok is one of the most fastest growing platforms
mhm.
right now. But that doesn't mean that it can't happen on other platforms organically like that. I use LinkedIn a lot. And for me, it works really well because from a business to business perspective, B2B perspective, the brand that you could build as an individual, as an expert there could be really, really strong if you do it and you do it right. But you got to start. That's the main thing. Just start. Don't think about perfection.
Mhm.
Don't think about trying to make the video too perfect and putting on a tie and a shirt. Make the mistake. Be authentic. You're gonna say something and you're gonna say, don't worry about trying to cut it out and making it perfect or doing it over. Leave it. When we're having this conversation one to one,
Mhm.
we're not studying if we're making a mistake, if we slip and we say a different word or partially say a word or mispronounce a word. We're correcting it in the moment and it's authentic. And what people look for now is authenticity.
Yes,
So
sir.
you're creating content,
Mhm.
be authentic, make the mistake, let them see the flaws, right? And
Right.
you will pick up on the realness about you, and that will grow really well. You will make your brand grow really well, in fact.
Let me ask you something because it sounds like you're doing this organically and manually. Do you use a CRM system at all?
Me personally, no. But
Really?
yeah, me personally, no, because um, for the level at which I'm working,
Uh-huh.
it might be useful. Yes, I'm not going to discount it. It might be useful. It could work. But I've gotten so accustomed to just doing this organically that I enjoy it. Right?
Right.
I just enjoy. I'll pick my phone up and I'll create a video quickly, and then I'll go and CapCut and add some captions, and then I'll just click post, right, and
Right.
share it because it doesn't take long, right?
Right.
Because inspiration sometimes come in the most unusual moments. You can be on the toilet, and the best ideas could come to you on the toilet, right? As soon as you go out there and you record something, but you record it with so much energy and authenticity, right? That when people look at it, they feel that they pick up on that and they say, you know what, I like your content, I like what you post. And sometimes it's not exactly what you're saying, it's just the energy they pick up from that. They pick up the authenticity, the realness, and they say, I want to work with you because you seem real.
Right.
And That for me is the way in which we need to do sales going forward and adapt as technology changes and we have AI getting stronger and stronger of an influence in the way we do things. We also need to make sure that authenticity stays and we continue to adapt. Let AI help us, but don't be dependent on it, if that makes sense.
I just got to tell you that I've got a lot of those old fashioned values myself.
Right.
I mean, and like, there's a lot of times that there's a lot of stuff electronically that I do, but I try my best not to use it. But now I'm finding myself like rolling over to that. But I asked that question because it's kind of like I was feeling that because I can rely on me to do those things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you do that. I can rely on myself to do those things. But just wanting to be adaptable is why I was asking that question because so many people now and so many businesses are using CRM systems.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are not easy because you have to like roll over into this whole different category now. So
Yeah.
when you start using those things, it's like one thing affects like 25 things, and you've got to be able to learn all those things.
Yeah, it is. It is true. It is true. And the thing is, it all comes down to the nature of the business.
Mm-hmm.
Does the nature of your business require you to use it? If so, yes, take it, run with it. I have colleagues of mine, similar industry as myself, and they use CRM systems and they use it really well and it helps them really well. Really helpful tools to help them put out. And
Okay.
I see the benefits of it working for them, right? Maybe if I start using it myself, it will help me. I don't know. But I've grown to like my flow and my process so much, right? That it works. Does it mean that I'm going to stick with it? No, because I know at some point I will have to adapt again and evolve as technology goes on. So, yes, I may have to pick it up, right? My business may be at a good level right now as a trainer and speaker providing services throughout the Caribbean and the US. But does it mean that I'm going to stay at this level? No. I'm going to continue doing this. My brand is going to continue growing. And as I continue growing and I get more clients on board, my brand build more, yeah, I may require using these CRM tools to an extent where, okay, I need help, right? So maybe I'm not there yet.
Could you describe a challenging negotiation you faced in your career and how you navigated it successfully?
I had a client. Oh, this one. A good thing you asked me that question. This one was it was a in the moment scenario where I was talking to a client, and the way the conversation was flowing, it was different from how I would normally do my sales flow. But as a expert, you need to know how to adapt in the moment, right? So think on the fly and then make a decision.
Your internet is got you frozen. We've got a little technical difficulties there, ladies and gentlemen. Give us just a short minute so we can try to get Adrian back into the show. Hello, sir.
Wow, technical difficulties are totally different when you're on an island. Eh?
Well, that's okay. I'm glad you were able to get back on.
I
So,
appreciate
as
that.
you were saying, your internet, it was kind of like it was having you going in and out, so it was kind of like freezing a little bit. But see,
Right.
like now you're like back to 100%.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I don't know what happened just now, but it everything just froze. So we can get back to where we were, if we still
Yes,
have the
sir.
audience here with us.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
All right. So what was the last question? Where was I?
You were talking about when I was asking you to describe the a negotiation you faced in your career and how you navigated it successfully.
Oh, okay. Oh, this one I was talking about went to a client, and the flow of the meeting was different from how I'd normally use my flow, but you had to adapt in the moment. And the particular client in the conversation eventually said, "Well, Adrian, what's the cost of this project? What are we going to work with?" And in the moment, I already had an idea of what it was, so I told him, I said, "You know what? This is what the price is going to be like." And he said, "Whoa, it's a bit expensive. Can you do it for X amount of dollars?" Right? In the moment, I had to make a decision. Do I tell him, no, we can't do it for that amount? Or do I accept his offer and take it because, hey, I'm getting a sale? That particular moment, I made the decision to tell him, I can do it for you for that price that you want. but you're not going to get A, B, and C. So I basically removed elements of work to adapt to his price, to let him know that you're not going to get the same value. You're going to pay less, you're going to get less. I'm not going to do the same work for less money. I'm going to give you less work. I'm going to give you less product for less money. So I put him in a position to make the decision, do you want less or do you want the maximum benefit, without telling him that. And then eventually he made the decision, okay, I'm going to go with the full package because I don't want to lose any elements of this. And that was it. So that was an interesting way in which I had to adapt in the moment, on the fly, that wasn't prepared for. It was a tricky negotiation. It sounds simple, but at the time, it was the first time I did the negotiation that way, and it was smooth sailing from there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So just to add to that, if you're looking at this live right now and you're getting into business, just because a customer wants a discount doesn't mean that you have to bend to their request for a discount and still do the same amount of work or give the same amount of product or service. Also know your worth as an expert, as a salesperson, as a company. Know your worth, and don't be afraid to stand up and tell a customer, I can't give you that. But what I could do A, B, and C. Give them another option if they want. But make sure that both sides could benefit from it. I don't want you to feel like you're losing just to get a sale.
So in teaching entrepreneurship, what are some common misconceptions you encounter and how do you address them?
That's an interesting one. A misconception that I encounter in entrepreneurship and in sales, because I think this particular example goes both ways, is people thinking that everybody needs my product or service. And that is not true. Not unless if you sell toilet paper, not everybody needs your product or service. Right? You need to create a client profile, identify who's the ideal client, understand where to find these ideal clients, and then go there and sell to these ideal clients. Eliminate the need of having to talk to everyone you know to try to sell them what you have. I don't see the benefit now. Maybe it worked back in the 1990s, maybe it worked in the 80s, the 70s, but I don't see the need now for people to have to call 100 people to try to sell them something. It should no longer be a numbers game. It should be a game of quality rather than numbers. So if you want to make 100 phone calls, but you know out of that 100 phone calls, only 10 people might buy, right? Then more than likely, you should not be calling the other 90 people. Or at least the other 80 people. Still leave a buffer for 10. You never know, you could convince another 10, right? Keep that 80-20 rule there. Narrow it down to the quality ones. I tell people business and sales nowadays is not so much a qualifying aspect where you need to qualify your customers. You need to disqualify the people who's going to waste your time. You're going to have a lot of people out there, hey, what's the price? Let me know what's the price. Oh, that's a good product, but I think this is bad. And they're going to engage you and not do business with you. Identify them quickly and drop those. Work with the people who are the people that's going to buy from you, who are the quality clients, and you're going to see better results. Don't work hard, work smart, right? So disqualify the waste of timers. That's a major misconception that I see, is that everybody needs a product and service. No, not everybody needs it. Drop the people who don't. Just work with the people who do, right? That is the biggest thing.
What do you believe are the key attributes or skills every aspiring entrepreneur should cultivate?
A drive to succeed and do better. Unless if you want to grow, you're not going to grow. Unless if you want to adapt to the changing world that changes by the minute,
Mhm.
you're not going to adapt. You're not going to keep up. So you need to have a drive to succeed, a drive to push yourself harder
Mhm.
in order to make it. Because now, yes, we have technology, but that also means everybody else have access to that same technology. And
Mhm.
because they have access to that technology, have access to a lot of tools to help them advance in their careers. And you need to have that drive to make sure that you stay on top. If you have that drive to stay on top, you're going to put yourself in a mindset and a position to find the ways to ensure that you become the best at what you do. And once you become the best at what you do, you need to still have that drive to ensure that you stay the best at what you do. Because in the blink of an eye, someone could pass you in this race. And when they pass you, you're going to be left behind. And when you're going to left behind, if you don't try to adapt and keep up and continue having that drive for success, you're going to lose the race. And
Mhm.
nobody here wants to be losing the race. We all want to be winning the race. We're
Mhm.
not in real life. You're not getting a medal at the end of the race. That
Right.
only happens when you pay for the marathon. You basically pay for that medal. But in
Mm.
real life, you're not getting that medal at the end of the race. You're gonna get it if you're in the first three. Aim to be the first. So even if you fall short, you fall at second, you fall at third. But always aim to be the best. That drive.
So tell us this. In getting into this, especially from the entrepreneurship perspective, what should your mental be like?
My mental,
Yeah, your mental. What should this be like?
strong. Because you're gonna experience a lot more downtime, a lot more slow times, a lot of times where you're not gonna make money, a lot of times when you're not gonna figure out how you're gonna pay your bills, a lot of times when you're gonna question yourself on, did I make the right decision? And that strength also needs to come in combination with the consistency that I spoke about earlier. Because if you have a weak mind, you're gonna just give up. But if
Hmm.
you have the drive to succeed, you have a strong mental capacity, and you remain consistent at what you do. And that, let's just say, it's creating content, creating postings, marketing yourself, building your brand, ensuring that you're putting yourself out there and people seeing you, and you just stick with it. My former principal in high school used to call it stick to itiveness. If you have some stick to itiveness, it's going to pay off. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So
Hmm.
if you ensure that you stick to it, you remain consistent with your pace, with your cadence, and you continuously keep pushing and pushing, you're gonna run and you're gonna finish that marathon.
So, how do you encourage innovative thinking and risk taking among your students or mentees interested in entrepreneurship?
I make sure that they learn by doing. So I
Mm.
don't stand up in front of a training room and tell people, well, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this, you should do that. And then, okay, have a nice day. Hope you enjoy this training. Bye bye. No, I say, we need to do this. Here's how we're going to do this. We're going to do this by doing A, B, C, and D. And at the end of it, do you understand? If they say, yes, I understand, I'm like, okay, let's do it now. You're going to do it now. For example, I show you how to create content. You understand how to create content? Good. Now you're going to record a video, post it. You're going to do it now. You're going to learn by doing. Experiential learning is the way to make sure that you create good habits and that those habits stick with them. Because if they make a mistake that they probably shouldn't be doing, right, but it's genuine mistake, then it teaches you what not to do. But if you have not tried and failed,
You're frozen again. ladies and gentlemen, we could not get um, Adrian back. We've got some technical difficulties, that's going on where he is. So we will reschedule the show, and we will make that a part two as to what we started here. So thank you all. I appreciate you for your time. Please, for those that are watching on the YouTube channel, please subscribe, hit the notifications button. But we will definitely get Adrian back, because this was actually a really good show and helping people who want to get into sales and entrepreneurship. So we will see you guys next time, and I will post